crafters, and welcome to Creative Moments by G. I'm G, and today we are going to create a fantastic background using just stamp, ink, and paper, and some vellum. We're going to emboss on that vellum, and this card is just beautiful. So let's head down to the crafting table. Let's get started. We will be using Cheerful Daisies. Now, we absolutely love this stamp set. And just to tell you what these dots mean up here, just to give you a little tip, we like to store our dies inside our stamp set. So when we have a die in here, we put a yellow dot on it. Now, sometimes when you buy your dies, they have a die that doesn't really go with anything here, but it's really pretty. So we put a blue dot and we kind of list what's on here. So right here it says label and branch. And when you open it up, we have this cute label and we have this little branch right here. They don't go with anything on the stamp set, but if we don't put that, we won't remember that we have this cute little label and branch that we can use on all our cards. So that's just a little tip if you want to organize your stamp sets like this as well. Well, today we are going to use this two-stamp process to create a fantastic background. Now stay with us because I have two cards to show you at the end where we've done something a little bit different using this process. But the first thing you're going to need to do is bring in your mat. Now we've decided to make this a first mat. We're not going to put any other mats behind it, just add this right to the card. But you don't need to because we're adding vellum and we are creating our own background. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of repositional tape on here just to hold it down when I start stamping. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about a two-stamp process. When you have flowers like this, and you probably have a stamp set that has a two-step process, sometimes it can be difficult to figure out how to lay them on top of each other. So what I would recommend is grabbing you a scratch piece of paper, and let's just go ahead and stamp these. I'm just going to pick any color. We'll pick Melon Mambo, and I'm going to stamp the background. Now, notice that I have three little leaves right here, okay? So I'm going to be mindful of that when I stamp this. So here it is, and I'm going to lay this down right there. Now I'm going to come in with my second color, and I'm just going to use Memento. And I'm going to tap, tap, tap. And I'm going to line up those three that I have. And that will help me make sure that I have it in exactly the right place. When you're stamping, just be mindful of that, how you have them. Or maybe there's a focal point that you can pay attention to. The other thing you can do is you can put a dot right here. Let's go ahead and do that technique. So here's the top part of my flower, and I'm just going to put a dot right here on this side of it, just so I know that's my top of my stamp. Okay, and now I'm going to make sure that this is lined up the right way, which we know it is, and I'm going to put a dot on this one too, just so that I know it's also the top. And that's just to give you a little tip so that it's not so hard to stamp. So let's go ahead and start stamping. Now, the colors that I'm going to use today are beautiful spring colors. We have Melon Mambo, Orchid Oasis, Dandelion Delight, Pumpkin Pie, and Early Espresso. Beautiful colors. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp some Melon Mambo, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp my background first. I'm going to bring in my background stamp, and I'm just going to stamp off. keeping it in the same position so that my black dot is right at the top. And I'm going to do one more. I think I'll just do it right here, right in the corner. And this is such an easy card, but makes such a statement because it's going to create this beautiful background full of flowers. Now I need to clean that off because I'm going to move on over to my next background. I'm going to bring in Orchid Oasis, and we are going to once again get that dot right at the top. Now I want to stamp close to this, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in a mat, and I'm going to mat this one and stamp really close. Now when I have it laid over the flower, I'm going to pull it back just a little bit, and that will help me stamp behind it. So let's go ahead and get this inked up, making sure that your dot is at the top. And I'm just going to hold it, pull back just a little bit, stamp. Let that ink transfer. Now look at that. It went right behind my flower. So I'm going to go ahead and shut that one, pick up my next color. I'm going to do Pumpkin Pie. I need to get this cleaned off. Open up my Pumpkin Pie. Look for my dot so that it stays at the top of my mat. And tap, tap, tap. And now I have one more color to add. I'm going to add my dandelion, so I'm going to clean this off. Tap, tap, tap. Look at that. Beautiful background. We love these daisies. Now, of course, you can use any flower that you have to create this background, but this cheerful daisies really is cheerful. Now I'm going to bring in my second stamp, and that way I can stamp them all at the same time, and I'm going to bring in Memento. Just going to tap, tap, tap. Line that dot up so it should be fairly easy to get everything lined up. I need to put my mat down. So you can see that adding this black dot and being mindful when you stamp your mat, you don't spend a lot of time searching for exactly the right way to stamp it. So the next thing we want to do is bring in our leaves. And so I've picked our leaves from another stamp set because I really like these leaves. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp in Granny Apple Green. But I will be using the mat to go over the daisy so that I can stamp behind the flower. So we're just going to line that up, pull it back just a little bit. And stamp it. Have just a little leaf popping out. And now we need to use our dandelion again to stamp the inside of our flower. We're going to use our brown for our yellow flower, and it looks kind of like a daisy sunflower. Now on our leaves, we're going to go ahead and color those just a little bit with a blend. And our blend is going to be a light granny apple. Okay, and now we are ready to create our vellum. So we are taking a piece of vellum and we are cutting it to be 2 inches by 5.5. And we're doing 5.5 because we're going to wrap it around the top part of our mat. Now, when you have this cut, you need to go ahead and keep it in there and just score a 1/4 inch on either side. Now, be careful because you can tear your vellum. You just want a very light score line. We're just going to crease it just a little bit, being careful so that we don't crack it. Now we're going to bring in our buddy and we're just lightly going to dust it so that we don't get a lot of black everywhere because we are going to use black embossing powder. Now let's bring in our stamp and we have a beautiful large stamp. Wishing for a beautiful birthday. Now you could do a Mother's Day card, a friendship card, hello. There's so many things that you can stamp on this, but we wanted to just wish them a happy birthday. Now make sure that you get this really inked up with your Versamark. We're going to get it centered. I'm going to bring in my black powder and just go over it. Look at that. That is going to be nice and shiny once I use my heating tool. Now, when you're working with your vellum, it will very quickly cure your powder, so be very careful. Don't burn it. And look at how shiny that is. So pretty. Look at that shine. Now, when you're adding your vellum to the front of your card, go ahead and use your tape runner for these little strips that you scored. Let's just put some tape right there. And that will stick it to the back of your card. And then we're just going to make sure that spot where we scored it just goes right over the edge. Now, if this is too much of a bubble for you, you can grab your glue dots and just take one little glue dot using your take your pick tool. Just grab it up. And you can put it right under a letter so that it doesn't show, and then just push it down and it sticks right to the card. Look how pretty that is. So let's go ahead and decide which color card that we want to add it to. So I have a black one. Oh, that looks very pretty. Let's try a yellow card. That also looks pretty. A magenta, melon mambo. That looks pretty. And we have a pumpkin pie. I think I'm going to use pumpkin pie. Now, you can lay it flat just like this, or you can bring in some foam. Now, we happen to have some foam pads, And I'm going to go ahead and use those. So I think I'll just put it under a gray one. Now you want to cut this foam pad a little bit smaller than your mat. So instead of 4, I'm going to cut it at 3 7/8. And when you cut these foam pads that you can buy at the dollar store, what's so cool is you just tear it once you cut it. Love that. So I'm going to stay an 1/8 underneath so that it doesn't go right to the edge. Now we're just going to glue this to the top, and this will create that little bounce up that we want. So let's just add some glue to this foam pad right here. Or you can use your tape runner. Just going to add it to the back of the card. Okay, and now we're going to add this to the top of our card. And just hold it down for just a second. Let's go ahead and add the inside of our card for our sentiment. And you can stamp a flower on the inside if you want. We will probably do that later, stamp a flower right here. But look at this card. Look at that. Love this card. Love the vellum. Really adds to the beauty. Just kind of an overlay. We created our background with this beautiful cheerful daisies set. Now remember I said stay with us because we're going to show you 2 more cards. Here's another cheerful daisy card that we created the background. Used a different stamp, but we used different colors. So you can see that we used our different colors in different ways. And then if you don't have a daisy stamp set, not to worry. Just use another flower to create that beautiful background. Do us a favor, take a moment right now and leave us a comment. Which do you prefer? The pumpkin pie background, the Tahitian tie background, or maybe you like these daisies. It's a completely different daisy set and it uses smaller daisies. Let us know which is your favorite, and also let us know, what do you think about this overlay with our vellum? It just adds a special touch, we think. Well, thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We really appreciate you. And if you were inspired, give us a thumbs up and share with your friends as we try to grow our channel. Remember, check out these other videos that we've listed above, and they also use the Cheerful Daisy set. So go out, make it a fantastic day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.